What's up, everybody? This is Read the Bible with me, Stan Jr., and today we're looking at chapter 22 of the book of Genesis. I'm so happy that you decided to watch this video. If you're not watching it, just put it up behind you while you do some work and just listen to it. Listen to the word being read, okay? We're talking about Genesis 22. Before I get started, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Why haven't you done that yet? Subscribe. I'd appreciate it. All right. Chapter 22 says, after these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham. And he said, here I am. He said, take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. So there's a few things in here that we got to talk about already. Number one, Abraham is asked to offer his son by God. But God, this is not the ways of the God of the Bible. Yahweh doesn't ask for child sacrifice. That's like foreign false gods. And so Abraham realizes that. Number two, he states, take your son, your only son, whom you love. This is called a type or shadow or foreshadow about what is to come. You see, Abraham doesn't end up sacrificing his son. Most people know that. God actually stops him. But God does have to sacrifice his own son. His name is Jesus. And so it's important that you see that Jesus is right here in chapter 22 of the book of Genesis. And so he says, take your son, your only son, go to the mountain. I'll tell you about it. So Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took two of his young men with him, and his son Isaac, and he cut the wood for the burnt offering, and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. On the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place from afar. Then Abraham said to his young men, stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go over there and worship and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son. And he took in his hand the fire and the knife. So they both went them together. And Isaac said to his father Abraham, my father. And he said, here I am, my son. And he said, behold, I see the fire and I see the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? Abraham said, God will provide himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son. So they both went of them together. Here's two ways I know that Abraham was expecting that God was going to provide. Number one, when he set off, he sent the two young men that went with him to stay there before him and his son left. He said, hey, we'll be back after worship. That's number one. Number two, he says to Isaac that God will provide a sacrifice. So this man is walking in faith. That's how you have to be. I mean, every day, everybody puts hope on the line. I think it was Eugene Peterson that says that. Because they don't know what the next moment will hold. You're hoping in something, you don't know what the next moment's coming. And so walking by faith means I'm going to take this step of faith. I'm going to believe God because I don't know what'll happen anyway. So I'm going to take this step and trust God. When they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built the altar there and laid the wood in order to bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, here I am. He said, do not lay your hand on your boy or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram, caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the name of that place, the Lord will provide, as it is said to this day, on the mount of the Lord it shall be provided. And the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, by myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you, and I will surely multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven and as the sand that is on the seashore. And your offspring shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in your offspring shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Here's why. Because you have obeyed my voice. Did you know that obeying the voice of God blesses other people? If you don't obey the voice of God, other people are affected. God is not just looking to bless you for you. God wants to make you to be a blessing for others. He wants to bless you so you can bless somebody else. And if you don't do what God told you to do, if you don't start the business, if you don't become what God created you to be, you know you are affecting other people. What if God told you to start a business 2 years ago, and during this pandemic, you would have created jobs that will help people during this pandemic, but you didn't? So someone is affected now because you didn't obey the voice of God. Obey God's voice today. Listen to him. Don't be afraid. He's with you. Obey his voice. Let's finish up here. It says, now after these things, he says, he will multiply him. And he says, so Abraham returned to his young men, verse 19. And they arose and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham lived at Beersheba. Now, after these things, it was told to Abraham, behold, Milcah also has bore children to your brother Nahor. Uz, the firstborn, Buz, his brother, Chemiel, the father of Aram, Chesed, Hazo, Pildash, Jildath, and Bethuel. Bethuel fathered Rebekah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother. Moreover, his concubine, whose name was Remuah, bore Teba, Gahem, Tahash, and Makkah. That was chapter 22 of the book of Genesis. If you have been enjoying these readings, please pray about becoming a patron. Please pray about subscribing at my YouTube channel. You can go to the link in my description to become a patron. It's just $1 a month. It helps me put these videos together. It helps me create more Christian content for people to see and people to enjoy. So I pray for you, and I thank you so much for being a part of my Bible reading club. Until I see you again, Stan Jr., read the Bible with me. Peace.